Coming up, no time to let our guard down on COVID. While there has been a significant decline in infection rate, mortality is on the rise. What if spending exceeds income? From now on, anti-corruption officers will check suspicious declarations of Kazakh citizens. The animator brought the painting of the Kazakh Khanate Army to life. Stay tuned. Kazakhstan intends to punish civil servants for illegal enrichment. For those whose expenses exceed official revenues, special sanctions will be provided. The Majlis of Kazakh Parliament approved a new bill on anti-corruption. It was presented to the parliament members by the chairman of the relevant agency, Akhmet Baitursynov. He noted that the main provisions of the document are envisaged by the new concept of anti-corruption policy approved by the head of state on February 2nd. The chairman of the anti-corruption service called this law fundamental in the system of countering bribery in the country. According to him, everyone is aware of the scheme of concealing property assets acquired through corruption, which is often drawn up in the name of other persons. Proving that hidden wealth was acquired illegally is an easy feat, said Akhmet Baitursynov. He also added that the introduction of responsibility for unreasonable enrichment is a continuation of the implementation of the income declaration.
Мемлекеттік қызметшілердің жауапкершіліктерін күшейтуді
In addition to the 10% individual income tax provided for by the current legislation, we propose to strengthen the responsibility of civil servants. In particular, if the difference in expenses and incomes of officials exceeds 1,000 monthly indicators, a fiscal sanction will be considered. 90% of the difference will be confiscated as an administrative fine. However, in each case, everyone is given the opportunity to explain the legitimacy of the expenses. If the same difference exceeds the annual income and the official cannot explain where the money came from, career punishment will be considered. This means that he will be dismissed from the civil service for 3 years for negative reasons.
Мемлекеттік қызметтен 3 жылға теріс себептермен босатылады.
The chairman of the anti-corruption service spoke about the stage-by-stage submission of declarations of civil servants on income and expenses.
Бірінші кезеңде мемлекеттік қызметшілер
At the first stage last year, civil servants showed their incomes. Now the comparison of incomes and expenses will begin. At the second stage in 2023-2024, employees of state institutions and quasi-government sector will join. At the third stage in 2024-2025, heads and founders of legal entities will start declaring incomes. At the last stage in 2025-2026, all citizens will submit the declaration. And only then will it become known about the assets and property of the entire population. Another part of the bill is aimed at the development of a mechanism for protecting citizens who reported a case of corruption, the government noted. Kazakhstan again recorded an increase in the number of people infected with coronavirus. Over the past day, 1,508 new cases of COVID-19 were detected in the regions of the country. Almaty leads the ranking for coronavirus growth. 580 infected people have been recorded there. Pavlodar region is in the second place with 129 cases. Karaganda region closes the top 3. In general, since the beginning of the pandemic, the number of cases of coronavirus detected in the country has exceeded 1,293,000. According to the Ministry of Health, more than 45,000 Kazakh residents continue to receive treatment for coronavirus. Of this, more than 6,000 are in hospitals. To date, more than 8,894,000 people in Kazakhstan have received both components of the vaccine. Mortality from coronavirus has increased worldwide, the World Health Organization reported. From February 7th to 13th, the number of deaths increased by 4%, despite the fact that the number of detected cases of infection decreased by 19%. Most of those infected were identified in the Western Pacific region. The highest morbidity rate is registered in Russia, Germany, the US and Brazil. In each of these countries, more than 1 million people fell ill in just a week, and thousands of patients could not cope with the infection. In general, over the past 7 days, more than 16 million people in the world have been infected with COVID-19. More than 74,000 have died. In neighboring Remember in Russia, a campaign to vaccinate adolescents from the ages of 12 to 17 is in full swing. The first batches of the coronavirus drug arrived in the regions of the country almost 2 months ago. According to the country's Minister of Health, last week more than 40,000 teenagers were vaccinated. Adolescents were injected with the Sputnik M vaccine. This is the same Sputnik V, only diluted 5 times. It consists of 2 components. Children under the age of 15 need the consent of their parents. Over the past 2 weeks in Russia, the number of coronavirus infections has increased significantly. Over the day, 180,000 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded in the country.
Звонков много, конечно, интерес к вакцинации.
Of course, there are a lot of calls. Interest in vaccination is great. At the moment, vaccination is carried out in clinics by appointment, so that no queues are created.
Захотел привиться, чтобы не болеть.
I wanted to get vaccinated so as not to get sick. My mom supported me. She said you could go.
Можно сходить.
The city of Rio de Janeiro started the vaccination campaign in public schools intended for students from 5 to 11 years old. In a day, 100,000 children received the drug against coronavirus. This is half as much as the local authorities planned. Politicians and medical workers hope to motivate parents to vaccinate children by raising awareness of the importance of the vaccine in the fight against COVID-19. Brazil is amid the countries most affected by the disease. According to the Minister of Health of this country, since the beginning of the pandemic, a total of more than 600,000 deaths from coronavirus have been recorded.
Hoje temos quadro de
In one day, 47% of our students received the vaccine. We hope to raise this figure to 53% to ensure a safe return to school for our children. The Ministry of Culture and Sports of Kazakhstan promised to raise salaries for workers of creative spheres. At an expanded meeting of the board, Minister Dauren Abayev spoke about the need to work out additional payments and allowances to official salaries of employees of cultural organizations, not for everyone but for those that have the status of national. Today, there are 7,637 facilities in this industry. However, as the minister noted, the opening of at least 300 more institutions is now required. This shortage is mainly in rural areas. Also, according to the minister, the low salaries of the teaching staff and the concert masters of art universities also require changes.
Хочу данный вопрос взять на личный контроль. Почему? Потому что многие из тех
I
преподавателей.
want to personally supervise this work. Why? Because many of the teachers I met these days, even in the most difficult time like in the 90s, did not abandon their profession, and it was thanks to them that there was no gap between generations in culture and art.
Поэтому мы сейчас должны, наверное, поддержать их.
According to the minister, the department has accumulated a considerable number of boundary issues with the Ministry of Education, including the implementation of joint projects and the need to adjust some norms in relation to creative universities, colleges and schools. In the near future, experts will compile a list of current problems that will be considered at a joint meeting. Volunteer work may be counted in the length of service upon admission to the civil service. Students will also be paid an additional scholarship for voluntary work. The members of the Kazakh parliament made such amendments to the new draft law on volunteering. In addition, they plan to implement short-term, medium-term and long-term grants for them. The parliament members also advocate that office space for rent should be provided to volunteers and charitable organizations on preferential terms. An epoch in the history of Kazakh language, Akhmet Baitursynov. Under this name, a scientific conference dedicated to the 150th anniversary of the great writer was held in Ankara. The event was attended by scientists and public figures. The audience spoke about his services to society and noted his huge contribution to public education. They also touched upon the issues of the development of Akhmet studies.
Кез келген ұлт халықаралық аренаға шығу үшін сол ұлтты қозғайтын тұлғалар болады. Бұл туралы тарихта Лев Гумилевтің
The development of the ethnos, the struggle for the happiness of contemporaries. This process is described in Lev Gumilev's passionary theory of ethnogenesis. Of course, there are those who criticize him. I would use the term passionary personality in relation to Baitursynov, because a passionary person with perseverance and special devotion leads his people to higher goals.
ұлтын биік мақсаттарға жанкештілікпен, ерекше адалдылықпен сүйрейді.
Türksoy Genel Sekreterliğince hazırlanan bu toplantıda
He is an educator not only of the Kazakh nation but also of all Turkic people. Many in Turkey studied his life, defended dissertations about him and wrote books.
bütün Türkolojinin, Türklük biliminin sadece Kazakçanın değil temel taşları.
The visitors were presented with the book Teacher of the Nation. Similar events are now going to be held in other member countries of the Turksoy organization. A painting of the army of the Kazakh Khanate has been brought to life by animator from Almaty, Gleb Ponomarev. As a basis, he took the painting of Kazakh artist Talgat Tleuzhanov Abulkhair. It took him 3 days to make a video clip of a moving artwork. They also note that it was difficult to divide into layers each character and object, mountains, heaven, earth. The animator had to manually process over 100 layers. Gleb Ponomarev would like to see more references to Kazakh art in modern media, cinema and social networks.
То, что молодежь практически не увлекается искусством, и то есть мы сидим постоянно.
Young people are not quite interested in art. It really upsets me. We use constantly social networks, but at the same time, we follow only entertaining content. I wanted to somehow combine modern video trends, entertainment and art. I accidentally saw this painting on the internet. I was impressed by the details, the drawing of people, horses, and how the artist conveyed the emotions of this painting, the tension before the battle. I immediately had a desire to somehow add drama, bring this picture to life. If I had the original piece, of course, I would immediately revive the whole picture.
Поэтому драматизма, оживить эту картину. Если бы у меня сразу был на руках исходник, естественно, я бы сразу оживил всю картину.